Alphonse Gabriel Capone was born in Palmdale, New York, to Gabriel and Teresina Capone on January 17, 1899. Gabriel was a barber from Castellammare di Stabia, a town 15 miles south of Naples, Italy. Teresina worked as a seamstress and was the daughter of Angelo Raiola from Angri, a town in the province of Salerno. The Capone family immigrated to the United States in 1893 and settled at 95 Navy Street in Brooklyn's Navy Yard, a Brooklyn suburb near the barbershop where Gabriel worked at 29 Park Avenue. When Al turned 11, the Capone family moved to 38 Garfield Place in Park Slope, Brooklyn. Capone left his high school education in Brooklyn at the age of 14, after being expelled from a Catholic school. He then held jobs in various parts of Brooklyn, including working in a candy store and a bowling alley. During this time, Capone was influenced by the gangster Johnny Torrio, whom he considered his mentor. After participating in short-lived gangs, including the 40 Young Thieves, Capone joined the Brooklyn Butchers and the infamous 5 Points Gang. He was patronized and made a bouncer on a dance floor and a bartender at the Harvard Inn Saloon in Coney Island by the racketeer Frankie Yale. It was here that Capone received his scar, which led to his nickname, Scarface. He unintentionally insulted a woman in a Brooklyn nightclub, provoking a fight with her brother Frank Gallicchio. Capone's face was cut 3 times on the left side. Capone apologized to Gallicchio at the request of Frankie Yale and later hired his attacker as a bodyguard. When Capone was photographed, he hid the scarred left side of his face and passed off his wounds as those received during the war. Capone responded to an invitation from Torrio, who was looking for business opportunities in the liquor trade, taking advantage of Prohibition in the United States. Torrio took over the criminal empire of James, Big Jim, Colosimo after the latter refused to take over this new business, for which he was murdered, probably by Frankie Yale, although the court case against him was dismissed for lack of evidence. At the time, Capone was also suspected of 2 murders and was looking for a better job to provide for his family. The brutality that led to this unprecedented success in the criminal sphere provoked acts of revenge from Capone's rivals, including the North Side gangs led by gangsters Jaime Weiss and Bugs Moran. Capone's car was riddled with bullets several times. A particularly cynical incident occurred on September 20, 1926, when a gang from the North Side shot Capone's company, with whom he was having lunch at the Hawthorne Hotel. The first floor of the hotel building, where the restaurant was located, was riddled with bullets from Thompson submachine guns, which was done on the move from a dozen cars passing by the building. Capone's bodyguard pushed him to the floor as soon as he heard the first shots and covered him. Several witnesses were injured by broken glass and bullet fragments during the raid, including a boy and his mother, who would have lost her sight if Capone had not paid for expensive medical treatment. This event led Capone to ask for a truce, but the negotiations failed. Seriously injured in an assassination attempt by a North Side gang, Capone gets his business back and returns to Italy. During Prohibition, Capone was known for his control of a large part of the Chicago underworld, which generated approximately $100 million in profits annually. The sources of his profits were illegal enterprises such as gambling and prostitution, although the sale of alcoholic beverages brought in the most money. During this period, Capone himself conducted so-called interviews with new prostitutes for his club. In 1929, Agent Elliot Ness began investigating Capone's affairs. By closing down Capone's breweries and bars, Ness was slowly depriving Capone's empire of power. To wait it out, Capone arranged to be imprisoned in a comfortable cell in Philadelphia's Eastern State Penitentiary for 9 months starting in August 1929. Upon his return to Chicago, he discovered that he had been suspended from the law due to problems with the law. In 1931, Capone was indicted for tax evasion and various violations of the Volstead Act, which regulated the prohibition of the liquor trade. In May 1932, Capone was sent to the United States Penitentiary in Atlanta, a maximum security federal prison, but he enjoyed special privileges there. He was then transferred to Alcatraz prison, where strict security and unyielding wardens made it impossible for Capone to have any contact with the outside world. His control and interest in organized crime declined sharply after his imprisonment, and he was no longer able to lead the gang after his release. He lost weight and his physical and mental condition deteriorated due to syphilis. He raged about communists, foreigners, and George Moran, who Capone was convinced was still plotting in his Ohio cell to kill him. On January 21, 1947, Capone broke his paralysis. He regained consciousness and his condition began to improve, but on January 24 he contracted pneumonia, and the next day he had a heart attack. Capone was buried in Mount Olivet Cemetery on the south side of Chicago between the graves of his father, Gabriel, and brother, Frank. However, in March 1950, the remains of all three family members were moved to Mount Carmel Cemetery in Hillside, Illinois.